Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Forgotten Gear Restorations. Hailing from behind the old bread factory here in Orange County, California, I bid you and yours a good morning. And what a good morning it is. Anytime you get some reference to the early 80s in front of you, like this 82 Fender Super Champ. Oh, Paul Rivera was competing with the likes of Boogie, trying to make as much noise come out of as small a box as possible. And he did a pretty good job with this guy, but in so doing, kind of neutered some of the fun out of it. Let's see if we can sweeten this old girl up and bring some of the fun back, some of the interactivity, some of the dynamics, the whole thing that makes these things compelling to play. Let's get that back. I'll show you how I like to season them. Bye. All right, good morning, guys. So I'm inside of this Fender Super Champ. And you can see it's got that early 80s era circuit board, which is nice and compact. A little bit more of a jumbled layout than you would find in the more classic amps from, say, the 70s and 60s and so forth. But talk about save some space. So we're going to do a light recap, and then I'm going to address some issues that I find in particular with the Rivera amps. I can't say in general, but to my ear, I find it really strident in the highs. They feel overly stiff, kind of sterile, just bright. They lack depth, dynamics, and as well as the reverb on this particular one doesn't have the depth that I would expect in a little Fender unit. So we're going to work to address that as well. And we can, just looking at it right here, you can see the reverb circuit here. There's a 47 picofarad bypassing this 3.3 meg, where it would be a 10 on the more classic amps, blackface and silverface amps. And as well as this amp does not have any screen grid resistors. So for me, my favorite seasoning is compression. And that's what's sorely missing in this amp. I played it for about 10-15 minutes yesterday. And while it had a pretty nice clean tone, I just found that it just didn't inspire me to play. And it wasn't interactive with my fingers. So that's what I really look for in an amp like this, and in general. So I'm going to work to address that. There's a lot of filtering on that first stage. The plate supply is getting 80 microfarads of filtration. There's solid state rectification. In a sense, this thing is very much like the Princeton Reverb 2 that I worked on prior. There's a lot of that DNA that's present here as well. And actually, just circuit for, or sub-circuit for sub-circuit, you can see a lot of it's just, I don't want to say copy and paste, but it's sort of like the same thing. So that's where we're going to start. That's the direction that we're going to go in. And might look at loosening up some of the negative feedback to as an approach as well. So I think that'll make some sense. So I'll update you guys shortly. There's another thing I forgot to point out there. So that little 4.7K resistor there, see that green wire, it's going up to the base pot in that first lug, and then you can see that's going to ground. So this amp does not sound boxy at all. So that's a beautiful thing, and quite surprising. But I need to adjust the mids, and I'm going to do it by tweaking that resistor there. All right, so let me give you a quick walkthrough. So for my taste, and what is my taste? My taste is an amp that's going to be interactive with the guitar strings or your fingers. Let me kind of straighten this up a little bit. Thank you. That's what I always go for, especially with an amp that's mainly played clean. You want it to be interactive and fun. You need dynamics. So that means you need compression. So let me just walk you through what I like to do with this particular circuit. And then, in one way or another, this is sort of my recipe for all the Fender type amps, because I season with compression. Now, just a light cap job, Eric, on the bias supply there, as well as the preamp over here. And I'm looking through the camera, so I feel a little disoriented. So on a reverb mixer, there's a high-end, there's a bypass cap there on that big old 3.3 meg reverb mixer. On this amp, it was 47 picofarad. That makes the reverb incredibly harsh, and in fact, it makes all the tone incredibly harsh. So I like to bring that down, blackface spec 10 picofarad, and that warms it up quite a bit, because that's part of what this amp is missing. Now, then you can see the little standout guys here. These were 22 nanofarad. I moved them up to 47. I'm splitting the difference between this and the deluxe reverb. And why would I not do that? Because you're looking at the power section of this amp. You have a really stiff pair of 6v6s and push-pull. And you have an upgraded speaker with a massive Alnico magnet. So we could take advantage of that. This is not a boxy sounding combo in the least. But for my ear, the shift in EQ that I was looking for would be a reduction in the presence, and then a bit of a boost in the low end, which this speaker can deliver. And I think I showed you guys what that was on the opening for the teaser. It's a G10A. In case you're wondering, and it looks like it has a little coffee can sitting on the back of it. It's a very heavy speaker, so we're not going to be concerned about that. It's not time to change the cap can there, because the ripple is within spec. This thing's in fantastic condition. There's no background noise to speak of. And then the final piece of the puzzle for me, with 6v6 amps and even 6L6 amps, 2.7K on the screens for an amp that's super stiff, for an amp that's really strident. I like to add more resistance with the screen grids. And for me, this is just such a sweet little addition. And it's also gonna help us make some gains towards getting those really strident and stiff highs out of the amp, just right off the pick. And what it's going to do is it's going to work to gently and mildly compress the highs, those peaks, and it's going to squish them down in line with the other pleasant trebles. And on top of that, it's going to give you that little bit of spring and bounce to your pick and your fret hand, which makes these things fun to play. And an amp should be fun to play. We need to look at what this amp is. This amp is a very small combo. Some people would say, hey, it's a practice amp. It's something that you may just throw in the bedroom or the living room just to casually play. When people do gig with these, you can imagine that there's going to be a mic in front of it. This is not a high volume stage amp. It's something that's going to be mic'd. So take advantage of that. Let's let it be what it's going to be. I know that Paul Rivera, a lot of his mods for my ear involved like increasing headroom as much as possible. Like 1982, who were they competing with? They were competing with Boogie, who were producing smaller, not lighter combos that had immense sound pressure projection. That's what they were doing. And then everybody was kind of running after them, swimming in their wake. So, and what did that end up doing? It ended up taking the joy out of the smaller amps that were meant to be fun to play. It was just business all the time. So that's about it for this one. So I'll get her thrown back in the cab, and I'll see if I have time for an audio sample. Let's see what we can do. But that may have to come a little bit later. Pardon the jerky camera work there. But otherwise, this amp is in fabulous shape. Tempted to warm up the bias, but I really don't need to now. Just leave it where it was, and she'll be good to go. Bye.